November 4th, 2008. The dream of a man deemed the drum major of equality, Martin Luther King Jr., to see the United States become a...
When he was finally declared, I called my uncle in Chicago that's almost 90 years old.
And the relative she called marched with Dr. King himself.
He was so excited. He was...
January 17th, 2009. 200 people from Little Rock, Arkansas, loaded buses to make the journey. The idea was initiated by Arkansas's King Commission for what they called the King Holiday Getaway. This trip brought together students and teachers, well-to-do and those of moderate incomes, and those who lived during the struggles of civil rights, but all hope for a better future for America.
Give yourself a round of applause. They made it possible. We had a vision at the King Commission in order to merge with the Trailways to make certain that this historic event would come to fruition with Arkansas. And Arkansans participated. They were on time and did everything they were supposed to do. Now we're here tonight and we're ready to take off. Yeah! And we're wanting to make certain that everybody arrives there safely and have a great trip, enjoy themselves, and come back happy and to share their experience.
When he was finally declared, I called my uncle in Chicago that's almost 90 years old.
And the relative she called marched with Dr. King himself.
He was so excited. You could tell he was crying. And it's showing how much progress we've made. It's showing that you can achieve anything if you set your mind to it and prepare yourself. You can achieve whatever your dream is.
Before I thought, well, maybe only Caucasian men could be presidents, because I've seen so many presidents be Caucasian. And then when he was elected president, I was like, well, maybe I can be anything I want to be without having it to be stopped as being my race.
Initially in America, and particularly after the American Revolution, this was not allowed to happen. There was no opportunity, okay? There was no opportunity. So now what has happened, to some degree, the so-called founding fathers, they've been redeemed to some extent, you follow me, as to what has happened. And so I'll teach it on a personal level that I'm going here and I want to be here for my father and my mother and my ancestors who basically paved the way for all of this. They were qualified but did not have the opportunity, okay? So I will teach it as an expansion of what America really is about. You know, America's really been restricted, okay? And so now there's an opportunity, and so this is what I will focus on. This is an opportunity. I'm expanding. Things have expanded, and this is a new beginning. This is a new not an ending, but a new beginning, and that's what I'm looking forward to. This new beginning, the new America. This is a new America. Should have taken place after the American Revolution, or even it should have taken place at the Constitutional Convention, but it didn't. Okay, but they left open the opportunity for it to take place through the amendment process. Okay, but it didn't happen. Now it has happened, so this is a new beginning. This is America that my ancestors always hoped that would take place. And I did not think it would take place in my lifetime, but it happened. That's what Fannie Lou Hamer talked about. That's what George Washington Carver pursued, okay? But now it was changed because to pursue equality, you're pursuing a standard. Once you reach a certain standard, that's it. But that's what happens if your ability extends beyond the standard. Then you're cheating yourself.
The 23-hour road trip included several stops. When we arrived at our second stop, near Nashville, Tennessee for breakfast, I spoke with Deshaun Scarborough, the executive director of Arkansas's King Commission.
Again, I knew it would be a historic event, be it the first female vice president or the first African-American president. So we knew that once we kicked off the Get Out to Vote campaign in Arkansas statewide, encouraging people to get out to vote, we realized eventually we were going to want to take a trip. So sometime back, actually, in October is when it came to mind. September, actually, when it came to mind. This is one great way to get everyone inclusive in the same act and get everybody involved in doing the same thing from all parts of Arkansas. We have judges, we have people from state representatives, former state representatives. We pretty much have a series of many individuals that are on this bus. So everyone's getting along, having a good time, a great diverse group population, and we're just having a ball. It's a dream come true. You look at how Dr. King gave his life, and his echoing of having a dream, and falling from the founding fathers of everyone being created equal. You know, you look at today's society and realizing that, hey, the bar has been raised. And looking at my child, who's 13 years old, and that realizing that he too can become president one day, you know, it gives a great feeling. And, you know, it's just overwhelming. You see all the people together. I think that in itself says a lot. How everybody has come together and really are sacrificing their time from work, their time from their families, those who did not bring their families with them, and finding time to really come up and witness history.
The history of this monumental moment was chronicled through newspapers and even ESPN, the sports network. The station broadcast stories that explain struggles that other African Americans encountered that all led up to this peerless time in American history.
King and others speak in support of the proposed Civil Rights Bill was a 26-year-old George Raveling. The story of how he got there and how he came away with King's copy of the I Have a Dream speech.
As the journey continued, the route led the conglomerate of souls wanting to witness the narrative of the first African American to be sworn in as president to the Old Dominion state, Virginia. And by this point, they spent many hours on the bus. But as the conclave drew closer to their destination, they seemed more animated.
Where are we?
Virginia!
We're going
Washington, D.C.
to see who?
Obama! President Obama!
I'm excited about this trip, to be a part of it, to share with my children, my grandchildren. I know everybody's talking about what Obama can do for the economy and all of that, but more so it's important for what he can do for my children and my grandchildren in the decisions he can make with the Supreme Court and history on down the line, the decisions he'll make that will make a difference 30, 40, 50 years from now historically, and just the change that he'll be able to make that's going to affect our country in the years to come, and the newness and the youthfulness and just all that he brings to the table at this time in our country when we need so much healing and so much change at this time.
Just an awesome event. Awesome, awesome, awesome. To be able to take part in this type of history.
For the past 8 years with the Bush-Cheney administration, they just set race relations back so far. And I just did not think that America was ready. I thought it was going to take quite some time to heal those wounds. But Barack is the person, and he is for everyone. That's what's exciting, not just for Black Americans. Of course, that's first and foremost. However, we are Americans. We are the United States of America, as he says, and all of us need to heal and move forward for, more positive union.
We have had 8 years of struggle and hardship, and I think Americans had just really gotten fed up, and it was absolutely time for a change. And we have a bright, energetic person who is willing and looking forward to helping this country move forward. And I think that's what all Americans are looking for. And I think this is just an absolutely wonderful opportunity, not only for Black Americans, but for all Americans. And he is for all of the people of the United States. And it's time for a change.
I believe that all things work together for good for them that are called according for his purpose. And I believe he has been that called and chosen purpose to lead us at this time. And he brings so many people together at this time, as you can see. Who before has been able to bring and lead and bring people together of all nations together like this before. I mean, he has just been chosen to bring us together at this time when we have been just so divided. And I believe he has just been that chosen people to bring our nation together at this time.
Monday, January 19th, the day Martin Luther King's birthday was observed, was greeted by a soft dusting of snow. The day held a greater meaning for these folks who traveled under the cover of night to be present in the nation's capital.
To be alive at this moment in history where the first African-American president has been inaugurated, it is just a wonderful experience to share with everyone.
To see a Black person as president of the United States, it has a feeling in me that's indescribable. I never thought I would see it in my lifetime.
The itinerary for the day included seeing some of the sights Washington, D.C. offered. The first stop was the National Cathedral. The group was treated to a tour to learn a bit more about what they saw as they looked at the faces of gargoyles on the National Cathedral.
Former President Bush stood about right where you are now and watched as they hoisted the final stone. On the other side of this tower, as we're walking up, 3/4 of the way to the top, is a very unique gargoyle. A gargoyle are those little strange faces that stick out from the edge of the building. The face of that gargoyle is none other than Darth Vader.
Oh, no.
Yes. But remember, of course, with the church, evil can become good.
After the tour was finished, people took pictures to capture memories of this occasion. And students from Philander Smith College expressed what Barack Obama's journey meant to them.
This trip means a lot. It means basically a new beginning for some.
Many times, the African Americans, there would never be an African American president, but now Barack Obama is our president.
When it becomes real, because it's like, it's here, but it's not really happened yet. Once it becomes real, because I cried when he got elected, because it's not just that he's the first Black president, it's just that he gives inspirations to everyone, that you can do whatever you, just because people say you can and there will never be and all of this and that. God, if God has it for you, it's for you. And so when it happens, it will happen for you. And he opens up doors that only he can close and open. So I just feel like, I mean, because I'm starting to get emotional now. I just think that no one can tell me that I can't, ever, you know, and to see him and he gets sworn in and it's real, then it's like, okay, this is it happens, it's for real, and he is the president, regardless of what no one said he couldn't do, all the obstacles, things people try to do and people try to throw in front of him and like with his pastor and everything is real. It's gonna happen. And so I just feel like, I think I'll be excited, happy. I mean, I'm mad because people said he couldn't and he did, and I mean, it's just like, you know, one of those, I told you so, I can. One of those moments. Yes, we can.
The tour of sites then took the group to Union Station, a train station, but also a place where people could shop. And just like most of the city, there was plenty of law enforcement inside the mall. Back on the outside of Union Station, the overflow of faces allowed an opportunity to extend the scope of ideas, from folks who traveled from Arkansas to others who were motivated to be present in Washington for the moment when our new president would be inaugurated.
I've been the type of person who's always believed in the American way and whatnot, but to actually have it come into fruition, this is a historic moment, and I'm so glad we're here. My heart just swells with pride every time I think about, Barack Obama actually taking office. And I know there's going to be problems, and like you said, it's going to take a while for us to get out of our financial circumstances, but it's going to be worth it. And I'm just proud. I'm tearing up a little bit actually thinking about it right now because it's actually hitting me. So, but go Obama.
This is just a small piece of the pie. And it's not, in my opinion, necessarily about African American. He's the president of the United States of America. And he's the president to represent the United States of America. Sure, he is an African American, but first and foremost, he is the president of the United States of America. And that's where our concern should be. That's where we are where we are now, because we got everything broke up in segments. We got to paint everybody, got to identify everybody as what? Well, he is an Afro-American, he's an interracial person. So therefore, he encompasses both sides of the spectrum.
As the countdown to a new, hopeful, and different future filled with the possibility of prosperity and change drew closer, so did the dream of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. January 20th, the morning of the inauguration of Barack Obama, the 44th President of the United States, started with the group from Arkansas, along with many others from across the country loading their buses, to later arrive at RFK Stadium, where many walked nearly a mile to shuttles that would transport them to a site near the Washington Mall. Along the trek, vendors hoped to make some morning sales, but the fortitude of the many who traveled for days to witness this one day seemed to be more valuable than any souvenir. All the spectators of the day's inauguration endured freezing temperatures. But regardless, some say this occasion was worth what they had to withstand to be here.
Was not able to be in the March on Washington with Dr. King. I was not able to march in the civil rights demonstrations of the 60s. And I really feel like this is my opportunity at 58 years old. This is maybe the most significant opportunity I'll have to be a part of America at its best. So I had to be here.
I personally want to be a part of history, but I want to share this with everybody else that's here. It's really important for me, I'm repeating myself, but it's really important for us to come together as a people in order to deal with the economy, to deal with, getting us past the war in Iraq, to deal with the situation in Afghanistan. And I think that part of what's so beautiful about this is that you're uniting everybody, that it's bringing people from all over the place. I mean, saw a bus from Wyoming, and it's kind of a good thing because I think the nation is really kind of looking around and seeing the other people standing beside them for the first time in a long, long time.
You can feel everyone just uniting together for this important moment in time. I think everyone was tired of the same old stuff, and now we've got new hope.
Well, I wanted to be a part of history, and I just think it's great that Barack Obama got elected our president, our first African-American president, and I just thought it'd be exciting, and I just wanted to be a part of this great event.
I think it'll be a moment of great gratitude and thanksgiving. I think it'll be probably some tears as I think about our ancestors who came to this continent in chains, who've been lynched and raped, mutilated, and in many cases abused for centuries. To see the vindication of the indomitable spirit of the African people in the diaspora is just something that I think is awe-inspiring. I think the presence of God in our people is just a great blessing.
After about an hour of waiting for a shuttle, several members of the Arkansas King Commission group finally loaded one of the shuttles heading to the Washington Mall. Many buzzing with anticipation of what would happen in the next few hours.
It's an emotional time. I'm sure there will be tears.
The general consensus of all that decided to be a part of this documentary project was that this inauguration gave them a sense of hope for the future of America.
It gives you something else to strive for. Just knowing that it's not just one person you're depending on. You're depending on yourself as well and others, you know, to give everybody something to say, okay, there's someone else that looks like me. You know, there's someone else who has the same qualifications and someone who has the background that I can also do this. You know, give some of the younger people something to strive for.
Once people dismounted from the buses, more walking, about a mile to the Washington Mall. And these pictures show just how momentous the inauguration had become. The estimated number of spectators was nearly 2 million, the most ever to witness a presidential inauguration.
The fact that the country have come together, it is amazing to see how people of all nationalities, all races, creed, and color have come together at a time like this. And it's not just the fact that it's an African-American becoming the president, but we are looking for change. And I feel that we'll get it at this time.
Some even hope the new president would spark a complete change in the tone of race relations in our nation.
I think that there will be a total change of tone and that people will get along with each other better, and there'll be less hatred and less fear and more respect. I think it's going to be about respect, because I think that President Obama is going to bring a sense of respect for others, even people he disagrees with. We've already seen that. And that was something we haven't seen at all in the last 8 years.
And this gentleman echoes what others in the political arena say about Barack Obama's rise to the presidency.
What won the presidency for him was the horrible presidency of George Bush. And I think that Bush's presidency set up victory for a Democrat. And I think that Obama just came at the right time. And I think that he presented youth. And I think that his main competitor was Mrs. Clinton, and you just can't compete with youth. You can't compete with a young vision and a rebirth.
As for youth, many of the next generation were also represented in the crowd, thanks to their parents and grandparents.
To come only because of her. She's been out of school for 3 days this week, so she could be here. She lived in Greensboro, North Carolina with her parents. She's here with me and my husband. He's over in line there waiting to use the bathroom. And that's why we're here instead of farther up. But we came up on the train Saturday. We're staying with relatives, and we've kind of toured the city a little bit to give her a little history. And her class is coming back in D.C. She's a 5th grader. So she's coming back in April, so trying to give her like a head start on a little history.
Members of this family didn't want their last name used, but had a very interesting take on why they decided to make the trip to Washington on this historic day.
Well, really it's most meaningful because all the people who voted for Obama came together and overcame their prejudices. And for me, it's about the people who have never voted before, Democrat or Republican, because they didn't have any faith in the system. And for all the Republicans who came over and voted Democratic for the first time, and for all the people who don't even know black people who voted for a black person. So that's the big deal for me. That's why we're here.
Almost on cue, symbols of peace fly behind her. But just as great as this moment in history was, it wasn't without its problems.
One of our friends got sick, and she was tended to by the first aid, but it was chaotic. There are people dropping like flies, one block down, dropping like flies, and they just weren't prepared to take care of all of those people. So we just want to sort of get our way back to the bus, and so she can sit down and relax.
Even with the crowd, some spectators found ways to get a glimpse of history, regardless of the danger. However, others were content to make their way back to the shuttles that would route them back to RFK Stadium. This man believes more should have been done to accommodate the people that made up the crowds.
Knowing that this was going to be the largest event that ever hit this city, I would fail to understand that someone didn't go, gee, well, it would seem relatively simple to me to port people to 4 different places where there's parking, where there's subways, and bus systems that can port people away, and then getting people into the mall. They had one jumbotron per major huge block, and so there should have been less on fanfare and more on we the people. I mean, we're the person who elected him in. We're the people that take the effect of everything that George Bush happened, of the bad economy, of the things that Barack is going to move us forward to. We're the people that are going to take effect. It affects the little people the most. And it seems to me that for the little people, we should have had more jumbotrons to see the actual man take office. We should have been able to actually not be in a place where you couldn't have access to the event.
Even with the few problems some experienced during the day, the inauguration of the 44th President, Barack Obama, brought a new hope for our country, a new belief in our brothers and sisters of all races, and a new dream for our future generations to dream. Because the dream of the Baptist preacher from Atlanta, Georgia, Martin Luther King Jr., has been realized.